Welcome to Manhwa Recaps, spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Huge shout out and special thanks to the channel members. The manhwa starts with a mage casting an ability, and another mage blocking it for his party. He says that it's over now, and he points his wand, telling the Labyrinth master to try to block this. As he starts to cast the giant beam, he shoots forward as the Labyrinth master puts up 3 giant magic circles to block the attack. It comes into contact with the circle before completely shattering through it, and it flies straight toward the Labyrinth master, erasing him, causing a giant explosion in front of the party. Then we see that it was just for a game, as he has cleared the Dungeon Master difficulty, and they thank him for playing Abyss of the Labyrinth. The dude hits a fat nasty stretch, saying that he finally did it and that the game sure does get nasty at higher difficulties, but having a mage as his main character helped him a lot as well. The difficulty he was just on is called Turn-Based Master. He says that he should upload a strategy video for this one too, but something catches his eye, as it asks if he would like to challenge the final difficulty, which is Developer. He says that he's about that shit, and to run it. The game warns him that he's going to have to select a special ability, that he only got this by clearing the Turn-Based Master difficulty. He says that he's never seen this ability before, but if it sucks, he'll just reroll. And then he's going to stay as a mage, of course. We see that his mage's name is Kalem. He's going to dump all 10 points into intelligence, as he has 0 on every other stat but int. He clicks start game, and his screen starts to turn into the world's brightest flashlight, but it's not just that, as it completely sends a blue light out of his apartment. He then yells and hears someone telling him to wake up. His eyes jolt open, and the dude's holding onto his collar, calling him a criminal, telling him to snap out of it already. He wonders if the guy is talking to him, saying this must be a dream, because he can't be a criminal, as he's been doing nothing but gaming. The dude sees him laughing, asking if he thinks this shit is funny, and throws him to the floor. He says that it's better to lose his mind now than later, as he's going to die anyway. The dude says this must be a dream, wondering why it hurts, but most of all, why this dream is so vivid. A man stands before a giant gate, telling everybody that everyone's been given a magic wand. Everybody here has been turned into a slave for their crimes, and the Labyrinth is their one and only chance to change their fate. If they make it out alive, they can use the money earned in the maze to buy their freedom, and if they wish, they'll even have a chance to enroll in their magic academy. He's looking down at his hands now, saying that this is straight up out of Abyss of the Labyrinth, and says there's no way he's suddenly inside of this game. The mage then continues, saying that everybody is going to descend in order. As he's going in with his party now, he says that he has no idea what's going on, but this is the character he just created, Kalem. And if this is the Labyrinth from the game, then whatever monster they meet is going to be brutal, and he needs to figure things out now, and he should check the abilities of those who entered with him. He turns, and one of the dudes says that everybody should stay calm as a divine prophecy just came down, and it told him that they're all going to die. Bro is just straight delusional. Going to call him Kalem until we learn his name, and he says that they're all losing it. Kalem tells them to get a grip, saying that they can make it out if they stay calm, and they should move slowly and look for an exit. Porkchop starts hauling ass, saying that they need to get him out of here right now, and Kalem wonders what the hell he's doing all of a sudden. Then blood gets shot out, and he stares at it, as the pig has been impaled by 2 spears. Everybody is anxious, as what they see is a goblin before them. The lunatic says that it's just like he told them, and the elf girl is starting to freak out. The lunatic then says the prophecy wasn't wrong, before a spear takes his head off. The goblin starts drooling and looking at the girl as she's freaking out and falls onto the floor. Kalem realizes this is bad, as the goblin starts charging in. He says that he can't go out like this, as the 2 goblins leap at him. He looks over, saying that he's done for because he can't dodge, but his hourglass of turns activates, which is his special ability. Time freezes for 60 seconds during one turn, and he gains 4 action points, and it automatically activates in critical situations. As his pupils start to have an hourglass in them and show his action points, the status window says it's his turn and he has 60 seconds. Time starts counting down, and Kalem wonders what the hell is going on, because time is now frozen. He says that he thought it would be something with time based off the name of the ability, but he didn't think it would be this broken, but now he's got a minute he can think. First, he can raise his wand and block the blade, and it takes away one of his action points for doing that. He says that at this rate, he won't have enough to dodge or defend, and he lets out a sigh, realizing he has to lock in. He says that if he can't move, how did he just sigh though, wondering why it didn't take away an action point from him. We see that it's because that counts as him typing in the chat, and he says that if it's because it's created as a chat input, then he knows what he must do. He raises his wand once more, taking another point away, and he only has 6 seconds now. He points it towards both of the goblins, and with 5 seconds on the clock, it continuously goes down, and he uses his last action point. He yells fireball, and now that all action points are depleted, his turn has ended, and he has a 60-second cooldown on the hourglass. That's kind of broken. Fire begins to form at the tip of his wand, and as the goblins are about to finish killing him, he shoots out an absolute pillar of flames, obliterating the both of them. The elf is absolutely speechless, and Calum just sits there, looking at the scorch marks on the ground. The realization sets in as he starts panting, and he wonders what he did to deserve this, as he almost just gets killed for no reason like some nobody. If this really follows the same rules as the game when it comes to mages, nobody knows more than he does. There is no telling how long it will take for him to find the exit, so first he needs to do some farming, and then find reliable teammates. As he starts digging through their corpses, he looks over at the elf girl and asks what spell is embedded in her wand. She says it's lightning shock, but she's never used one before. He says it's better than nothing in size, saying she'll have to use it whether she's practiced or not, because if a monster charges her, she shouldn't hesitate to fire, and they have to go find the exit gate. He says regardless of who dumped him into this hell, if it's a developer or god, he'll survive and get out of this. For those of you who also noticed, I believe this is the same artist from Kill the Hero, a complete series on the channel. If you haven't watched it, check it out. We get some lore on the game and how a few years ago, the Labyrinth erupted, and monsters that poured out from there covered the surface. As a result, countless adventurers and mages died. In order to train Mage and explore the labyrinths, they started throwing in slaves and raised the ones who survived, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. That's pretty much the story of the game. There's no guarantee that everything he knows is correct, so he wants to be cautious. The elf thanks him for getting her to tag along, and she introduces herself as Yernil. He says it's not a big deal and tells her his name is Calum. They have a little bit of awkward silence, and she says that he's very calm and quiet. On the slave ship, he talked a lot with the other people. This catches him off guard, and he says that he didn't expect to have to deal with people who knew about him before he took the body, and that he needs to be more careful. She says that she used to live in the fairy forest and got a job at the errand center, but it turned out that it was distributing drugs disguised as packages, and she ended up being framed and couldn't pay the fine, so she was forced into slavery. He understands that she kept talking because she's scared, and then he tells her to please be quiet as she steps on a pressure plate. His hourglass ability activates as we see he has 4 moves, and it tells him that it's his turn. He turns, wondering if he stepped on a trap as well. He has a minute, so he tells himself to stay calm and analyze his surrounding area. Traps on the first floor usually involve shooting out from the walls, and fortunately, there are no holes on Yernil's side where something could shoot out. He looks at his side, saying that it's wasteful, but he has to use some action points to check. He says fortunately there are none, and he looks up saying that since there are none on the ceiling, meaning it must be a floor trap. There are 4 types of floor traps on the first floor of the labyrinth. First, the rising spike trap. Spikes pierce vertically through the floor and crush your feet. Second, the exploding nail bomb trap. The explosion radius is wide, so neither could avoid serious injury. And third, the poison gas or sleep gas trap. Perfect situation to become monster food. And fourth is the pit trap that makes you fall to the second floor. This one really has no solution. Since the hourglass activated, it means there's a threat to him too. While he can rule out number 1, there's not enough time to prepare for the rest. As the timer starts ticking down, he grows anxious, saying that this is pissing him off. If he lifts his foot, he'll just be in danger, so he needs to step on it as well so she can't lift her foot. He stomps down using his last action point, and since all of them are exhausted, it ends his turn. She continues carrying her momentum and walks forward, tripping over him. As she starts to fall, she asks what he's doing. He tells her that she stepped on a trap, and it's a trap that explodes the moment your foot is lifted, so he stepped on it instead. She starts panicking, wondering what to do, and he asks if she remembers the oak barrel they passed earlier. She says yes, and he asks if she could go grab it. She says that she'll be right back. Imagine if she ran into another trap. But he says that these kinds of traps can be handled by placing a heavy object on them, and he only needs to wait about 10 minutes. But it's been a whole 30, and he grows worried, saying that there's no way she got caught in another trap, or maybe she encountered monsters, and it might have been crazy for him to step on the trap in her place. He says that he should have been more selfish, but we hear her panting, saying that she brought it, and she apologizes for being late. It was just really heavy. He says she did well and just put it on the tile that he's standing in. She says okay, and he says that now that they're far enough from it, he wants to switch to the telekinesis magic wand first. And there might be an unexpected new trap, so checking is essential. He makes it move using his wand, and a giant explosion goes off, sending out a gust of wind throughout the room. He says now they can go, and he's glad that the trap was what he thought it was, and now it's not just the monsters, but he's worried about traps too. Dealing with both of these is going to make it a hassle, but there's a lot of hope. Since he has the initiative with the hourglass, and since it's still the first floor, 10 intellect should be enough. However, whether he can activate the hourglass when he wants, and that he needs to be sure if magic casting consumes action points. A goblin steps up, and he says this is the perfect chance as they start smiling, thinking they found prey. The hourglass activates, and he casts Fireball, and it takes one of his action points. We see that it also puts the spell on cooldown for 5 seconds, and time is still frozen while the spell is being chanted. It starts to go down, and he casts another Fireball, taking another action point. He says that with these two, it should be more than enough, and he ends his turn as they both fly down the hallway, exploding on the goblins, and it starts burning them to a crisp. He says theoretically, he can shoot 4 fireballs in a single turn. Yernil is just surprised, saying that he seems to have the ultra-high speed casting talent and chantless casting as well. He asks if it's that impressive, and she says yes, even just having one would make him amazing, and she's weak and can't even use magic, and she's no help and just causes trouble, and she's done nothing but cause trouble already. Maybe she should grab that bow off the ground. But Calum thinks about it, saying that she's definitely useless as a warrior or mage, but since she's an elf, he's sure that she's agile, so he asks how far she can jump. She thinks about it, saying that when she was in the fairy forest, it was about 4 meters or so. He's surprised, saying that that means her agility is at least 5 or more, and tells her to wait a moment. Calum grabs the bow, asking if she would try using this, and they just got it from the goblin. She says that she's actually way more comfortable with the bow, as she often shot one in the forest. He says this works out well, and that she can just provide support from the rear while he uses his wand. She says that she'll try to buy time so he can use magic comfortably, and he says in the end, he's ended up collecting everybody else's wands, including hers. She then hears something and says that someone is behind them. He then quickly turns, checking both sides of the hallway, but doesn't see a soul, and tells her that he doesn't see anything. He says that she's serious, and she heard a sound from over there. He then starts to have an idea, telling her to close her eyes for a moment. She starts wondering why, but thinks he has to pee, saying that she understands. He then throws some stones, asking if she could tell where and how many have fallen. She listens for the sound and says that there's about 3 of them, 4 steps away. He says there's no doubt about it. She has the ability to hear and judge the position, and it's called sound mapping in the game. He asks how many people she says are following, and she says there's 4, quickly approaching. He doesn't know why they're following, but considering the worst case scenarios, it won't be easy since they have to face a party where everyone survived. He says for now, they should hide instead. As they start running, he says they can hide around the corner and wait until the enemies come. They hide anxiously, wondering if they're going to continue pursuing them, and the footsteps keep getting louder and louder. Realizing that he has to do something, he steps out, asking why they're chasing them, and she draws her bow too. One of the men says they have no business with him, but that elf girl is something they really want a piece of. The dudes then tell him that if he hands over the elf, they'll let him live. As he holds 2 wands at them, this is really a fantasy Bloods versus Crips. The dude tells him that low-tier magic won't pierce his shield. The same goes for her toothpick-like arrows, and chanting won't work either, as an arrow will hit him in the head first. He shouldn't waste his strength and just make it easy instead and join their party, making it a 5-man. And the elf, they can all just run a train on her, asking him if it sounds good to him. Yernil calls out to him in a panic, and they continue, saying that it's safer to travel with the 4 of them than this elf. But Calum says that's not happening. He could sleep with her keeping watch, but with them around, he wouldn't be able to close an eye. He tells them to cut the shit and get lost unless they want to die. Yernil is excited that he's on her side, and the dude says that surely he's joking. Calum says that he's dead serious. And the dude sighs, saying that he has no choice then, telling his men to kill him. As he starts to release the arrow, the hourglass activates, with a minute now on the clock. Calum says that he clearly gave them a chance. Maybe the dual wands just look like a defensive stance to them, but if that's what they thought, they're gravely mistaken. His foot is in a puddle, and his lightning type wand is gonna be a perfect pair. Usually, it can only shock once, but with water, it's a different story. He casts lightning shock, taking one of his action points, and it zaps forward, flying directly towards the group. As time is still frozen, he says once they're electrocuted, they'll drop the shield, so he'll aim for them one by one. He casts Fireball, taking another action point. He says he'll shoot the first shot into the puddle, and then the next one at the bald guy. He raises his wand, taking an action point, and casts Fireball. And now he is out of action points. With this, his turn is now over. As the dual fireballs and the electric shock fly in towards the group, they look worried. The lightning zaps into the water, electrocuting all 4 of the men, causing them to scream and convulse. They drop their weapons, just as he had planned, and helplessly watch as a fireball flies in. It hits the water, creating mist, blocking their vision. In a panic, he tells everybody to scatter before the fireball flies in, and it explodes directly on them, sending out another shockwave throughout the tunnel. He tells Yernil to fire, and she listens for their movements before releasing a shot through the mist. We hear one of them screaming. He says that with her sound mapping, this is more than enough. He tells her to continue shooting, his spell cooldown is not up yet, and she has to take out at least one of them. And the bald guy probably got hit by the fireball, so he just needs to handle the rest. She shoots another shot, and his fireball is still on a 2-second cooldown, and he wonders why 5 seconds feel so long. He tells her to target the warrior first, he's almost ready. She wonders what he's talking about since she got them all already. He's surprised, and he says he only heard 2 arrows being fired. The mist finally starts to settle, and we see an arrow in one of their chests, and an arrow through another guy's skull as it pierced Homie's throat. He says that that's a Kalat. A Kalat is crazy, and she's scarier than he thought. She says that she was just scared. She worked really hard to make that shot. The bald guy is still alive and starts coughing up blood. His hands are gone though, and he wonders if he fainted. Calum says that he's glad he's alive, and he asks him what's his deal, since he can cast magic without chanting, and why he's even in a place like this. And this world is just so damn unfair. He says that's rich. They brought this on themselves the moment they tried to take advantage of a woman in the dungeon. He says none of them chose this. He got expelled for not having talent in magic and sold into slavery. If he even had half the talent he did, his life wouldn't have turned out this way, and it's all just a damn mess. As he starts to bleed out, he goes limp. Calum looks down, and Yernil apologizes, saying that she's sorry for being wrong, saying that she killed them all. He tells her that there's no need to apologize, as it's thanks to her they're safe, and then asks if this was really her first fight. She says it was the first time she's ever aimed at a person. And he says that's the same for him, but it's something they need to get used to survive, and they should check what they had on them. He says it's his first time killing someone, but he feels so calm. Once he thought he was going to die, maybe he's already mentally grown since then. And if that's true, it's not gonna help him get used to this awful stench of blood and burning flesh, as that just reeks. She then brings one of the backpacks, and he wonders what's the deal with it. He says it was probably something that another adventurer had, and they stole it. There's a handkerchief, a Bible, a frying pan, some bread, a knife, and a rope, and a wallet. They open the wallet, seeing that it's from an F-ranked adventurer named Bison. She says that his face doesn't match either of any of them, and Calum says he's probably the real owner of this backpack. Either he died and they looted it, or he got left behind and killed. And now that he thinks about it, even in the game, there were lots of ways to die. And that bald guy seemed to at least understand the basics of combat layout and positioning, but he never expected he'd use his ability or that he'd manipulate the environment. Calum says that if the situation were reversed, he probably wouldn't have considered that possibility either. He would have ended up just like him. But that hourglass, he would have already been dead. Depending on only luck and ability like this isn't really his style. Frustrated, he tells her they need to get. And he needs a thorough and flawless strategy with 0 variables, because his life is on the line. And it's time for him to finally admit it. This is no longer a game, but to him, it's a reality that he must clear. It jumps to later, as Yernil is panting, and they're walking down a hallway. Calum glances over, saying that 12 hours of goblin hunting would tire anyone out, and he asks her if she wants to rest. She gets excited, asking if he's sure, and then they set up a fire and use some pillars as a sitting stool. She hands him a piece of bread, telling him to eat this, and he thanks her. She then calls out to him and thanks him for saving her twice today. He says not to mention it, as she did all the work. They also collected tons of magic stones, thanks to her, and she says that if he had accepted their offer back then, she doesn't know what would have happened. He asks why he would do that. Yes, he would never abandon trustworthy comrades. She starts to cry since he called her a comrade, and she says that he should sleep first, and she'll keep watch. He then immediately rests, saying that he'll do it without hesitation, thanks to her. As he falls asleep, the status window says he's now entering rest mode. His level has also increased from level 1 to level 3. He says that he didn't expect to only level up when sleep mode is triggered, and we see that he has 2 stat points to distribute. He says that his 10 intellect is from the original stat points, and the +2 is from dual wielding the wands. He needs 13 to smash goblin shields, and he maxed it out in the game as well. So he's just going to go that route. As he puts it in, he also spots Yernil's name. We see that she also went from level 1 to level 3. She is all in on agility, with 2 points in dexterity. He says that she is a classic elf, and that this is insane because she has 2 dex base. As expected, she had the sound mapping skill, which is what he thought. He decides to max out her agility, and rest mode is now over. He says that now he's back to reality, it's her turn to sleep. She thanks him and immediately rolls over in the bed in the sleeping bag, saying she's waited for this for so long. She sees him putting the shield up against the wall, asking him what he's doing. He says he's just testing, and this spot should work. She asks what he's testing, as he pulls out the fireball staff. He points it towards the shield, then lets it rip. The fireball shoots out, sending the shield into pieces around the hallway. He says that his fireball is definitely stronger now, and this is not just a dream. She's surprised that it actually shattered the shield, and says this is unbelievable, before knocking the hell out. He says next they'll have to go find the exit gate, and we see her sleeping, and he says that she must have been exhausted. Their fire is now burned out, and they start leaving. She wonders how long it'll take to find the exit. He says that's hard to say. Exit gates are randomized and pure RNG. His luck as a transmigrator is probably the worst, and it might take even a week of grinding. But that's wrong, as he's immediately surprised as they've already found an exit room, and there are adventurers guarding it. Their gear suggests a veteran party, so they should be cautious. He raises his wands and calls out to them. They recognize their slave outfits, asking if they're from the Magic University slave team. Calum says yes, and he says there's no hostility, but it sure is awkward. The dwarf asks the priest named Emma when the university last sent slaves here. She says it was around yesterday at 10 a.m. The dwarf says that if it's only been a day and a half, and they've reached this long and are still alive, it sure is impressive. And since the elf ditched magic for a bow, that's sure smart. She's still scared. The dwarf asks if he's confident in the fact that he can dual wield wands. Calum says yes. The dwarf says that's good, as false modesty is pointless, wondering if he has a fireball wand. Calum tells them that he does. The dwarf asks his other party member, the cat guy named Zickle, what he thinks. Zickle says they can't just keep sitting around here. Emma says that if he's confident, they can just recruit him. The dwarf reminds them that he's still just a slave, and compared to a bison's level, he'll probably disappoint. They say it's true, but they don't have better options. Calum recognizes the name as the owner of the backpack, and asks if they lost a mage comrade. The dwarf says they did, as they met a black hornet on the first floor, and he got bodied in an instant. It was the first comrade he's liked in years. It's a shame to lose him. Emma says he's not dead, as she casts soul preservation, and a revival scroll can still save him. The dwarf says they can't leave to go get one, calling her a genius. Zickle says they need to decide already. Calum says they found the exit, but there's a gate boss inside that requires a mage. He wonders what it could be, since they have a priestess, not an undead. If it's a troll, salamander, or brass goat, their party should be able to handle those. If the boss is a flying type, they have definitely picked Yernil, since she's an archer, yet they need a mage with fireball wands. There's only one answer. He smirks, saying he has a question, asking if the boss is a venomous spider. Emma's surprised, asking how he knows, and even Zickle is. The dwarf asks if he knows his dungeons, and Calum says a little bit. A venomous spider is a monster that spams lethal venom and webs. The exit room is already webbed up, and it zips across the ceiling at insane speeds, attacking to inflict slow and bind. One misstep and you end up in its webs, and you're dead. And only a fire mage can counter it, burning the webs to force it down onto the ground, then finishing off, which is a standard tactic. He says this must be why they desperately needed him. Emma says she's in, and we finally learn that the dwarf's name is Yernil, and she tells him that it's his call. Zickle says it's the same. Whatever flaws he may have, he sure is quick-witted. The dwarf thinks about it, and realizes this is a good opportunity, asking if they would like to join them temporarily. Calum says no instantly. They're all just confused, wondering why. Even Yernil asks why they're refusing this good chance. He says it's only a good chance to defeat the boss. He says that after that, the exit gate will appear, and they'll have a chance to escape. But they are omitting one detail. Only 4 can pass. She now realizes what that means, and he says that the gate destabilizes with each person. Collapse accelerates, and it'll be gone in 5 minutes, so only 4 people can escape. Their party has 1 slot left, which is why they need him. In other words, they're telling him to abandon her. Her eyes start to swell up with tears. Yernil says that it's quite impressive he figured that out, and double-checks his name since he heard Yernil say it. He says they didn't intend to hide it, and he's sorry for that, and it would be nice to take them both out. But they only need a mage, and he wants to give him a chance to at least make it out alive, and that he should leave her behind right there. She starts to grow worried, wondering what he's going to do, and he thinks about it, saying that it's a sweet offer, and he was tempted for a moment. But if he can't escape slavery even after getting out, he'll just be thrown back into the labyrinth again. The important question is, he doesn't know if they'll continue to party with him, but there's no way, as he'll be thrown into another party of worthless slaves, and he'll never be lucky enough to find another slave with Yernil's skills. He says that Yernil is his comrade, and he can never abandon her. They're all surprised, and I don't know why she is when he already refused the gangbang parade. He says rather than that, he'd like to make a proposal. How about they all hire him instead? Yernil asks what he means, and if he's saying that he won't go for the exit gate, and yet wants to be paid. He sure is interesting, wondering how much he wants. He tells them 10,000 gold, and Yernil gets pissed. Yernil asks if he even knows how much that is, and Calum says of course he does. The magic stones and the backpack they gathered on the first floor are both things that, if they sold, they could get around 2,000 gold. Both of their prices as a slave are 3,000 each. With 10,000, he can clear their status and even secure some emergency funds. The party starts arguing, and Emma and Zickle think they should just do it. Calum says that a party that hired a cleric notorious for being expensive means that their funds are more than enough, and they seem pretty exhausted, and they want to escape. The most important reason is a bison. They need to bring back the scroll and resurrect him before the body with soul preservation magic is damaged, so they must be short on time. They have no choice but to accept his terms. Zickle wonders what he's worried about, as it's not like there's any other mages. Calum says that for the sake of trust, he would like the cleric to swear an oath in the name of the goddess Nathaniel. Emma agrees, saying that a covenant can never be broken. Yernil, realizing he could bargain, asks for 9,000. Calum says 9,500 instead. Virtanen then tries 93, and Calum is adamant with his 95. Virtanen can't believe he's going to do it, but realizes he has no other choice, and says fine. Calum says he won't regret this, and the dwarf says he certainly hopes not. Emma then tells them to come this way, and she says from this moment forth, in the name of the goddess Nathaniel, she will form this covenant. That Virtanen, Zikkel, and herself are promised to hire Yernil and Calum for 9,500 gold. The condition is that their party will exit through the gate, and if either of the two parties is wiped out, the contract is void. She asks if both representatives agree, and they do. Calum then opens the door, saying it's time for them to head in. As they all head into the boss room with the spider webs everywhere, Calum says it's dark, and he can't see well. The boss is probably hiding in the ceiling right now. He looks over to his side, noticing a neutral object, as he calls it, saying it's filled with explosives. Most rooms will have a neutral item apparently. Virtanen tell them to watch out for the webs on the floor, and if he steps on them, they're hard to get off. Calum says they need to find the boss first. Virtanen says all they have to do is burn the webs, and he shouldn't try to be a hero. He then hears a sound that makes a chill run down his spine, and they look up, seeing a web shooting out from the ceiling directly down towards him. Virtanen deflects it with his axe and tells Calum to hurry up and blast the ceiling with a fireball, as the thing needs to come down now. It continues to rapid fire the shots, and Calum says that with it exposing its position like this, it'll be easy, and there won't be many chances, so he needs to deal a ton of damage at once. His hourglass turns on, and since he has 4 charges, he decides to go all out and casts fireball after fireball after fireball. Now with a single action remaining, you guessed it, another fireball. Since all actions have been consumed, the turn ends, and all the fireballs shoot up in the sky towards the boss. Right on its mouth, they explode, creating a massive explosion. Zikkel, Emma, and Virtanen all just confused, asking how he cast 4 spells, and there wasn't even a chant. As the fire starts to spread, Calum tells everyone to focus, and this is their chance. From experience, he knows they can't miss this chance for burst damage. He tells Yernil to shoot, and she starts doing so as the boss is burning, falling to the ground. She lets out not 1 arrow, but 6. 3 of them bounce off with no damage. He tells her to wait for a minute, as using a goblin bow is meaningless. The boss heads to the ground, and the fire surges up towards the ceiling. He tells Emma to make a magic barrier, and as soon as the barrier is up, Zikkel needs to charge in. Zikkel calls him a rookie, asking why he's ordering him around, but understands this is the right call. As the smoke from the fire starts to settle, Zikkel charges straight in towards the spider. The spider raises its legs and starts to attack Zikkel, but he locks in using an ability called Leaping Ambush. He cuts off 2 of its legs, flying high over it. The boss starts to scream and falls onto its back into a defensive position. Virtanen says that it's going to blow, and that Emma needs to get ready. She then casts a spell called Constellation Shield, putting a barrier up in front of all of them. Calum says that this means they knew the pattern and prepared for it, but rather than blocking the poison sac explosion, before the poison inside can explode, freezing it solid is the best way, as he shoots out Ice Lance straight towards the boss. It hits its egg sac and causes it to freeze over. He says that now that he's done that, Emma needs to fall back, and Virtanen needs to charge in. Emma is confused, and Calum yells, telling Virtanen to hurry up with his burst damage. Virtanen tells him that normally, they just need to keep up the shield, but he yells, telling him to do as he says. They're so bad at listening, and in the game, all he had to do was click. Virtanen charges in, saying that he sure does have a new temper, and leaps up off the ground, raising his axe high over him, and uses his ability called the Great Shattering Cleave straight down on the boss's head, sending a shockwave through the room. With his axe now buried into its skull, he pulls it out, saying it's over, and raises it overhead. He says surely these guys do understand that when the boss is the boss, there is a very low chance, but it's possible there is a second phase. If you've watched till the end, comment, Labuba, to let me know. If you like this series so far, I recommend Kill the Hero. It's a completed series on my channel by the same artist, not author, just same art style, but still a good series. Link in the description. Subscribe for more videos like this, leave a like or a comment to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.